Hey, first I just want to say it's been a true honor to be able to represent this team these past 8 games. I've really appreciated all the staff, the organization as a whole. In the team meeting today, I brought everybody in and just made sure they all understood how much I appreciated the effort in a very difficult circumstance, how many of them worked to make the best of a tough situation. So I'm grateful for that. And also, I want to make a big shout out to our fans. I don't get a time usually to talk about these fans, but yesterday the place was crowded. It was loud. I was grateful for them just being there. Again, it never seems to amaze me at how much Colts fans bleed blue, stick with us, battle with us. Again, in a situation that was unfortunate, but man, I'm grateful for them. So thanks to all our fans for their support. And with that, we'll crank it up.
Jeff, you had little idea kind of what this was going to be when you got into it. Where did this land compared to what your expectations were maybe when we were here on day one?
Expectations, I knew it was going to be tough. Looking back and just a quick reflection, right, of the last 24 hours or whatever it's been, an incredible learning experience so far. I have learned a ton about myself, about my leadership style, about people, and about how you carry yourself in difficult times. So I've looked at it and learned an enormous amount. And again, I think the way you frame things, the way you respond to difficulties matters in life, and hopefully I've represented myself the way I should in these tough times. But I've learned a ton, and grateful for those lessons, and hopefully I grow from them and learn from them, and am better because of it.
Jim, with what you've learned or gone through maybe over the last 8 weeks, has it changed your mind? You still want this full time?
It has not changed my mind. If I get this job, there's going to be significant change. The way I do things is not the way things, necessarily have been done. I have my own way, and so I think that's the part that as you're thinking about the way you want to run an organization as the head coach, that would be my responsibility. When I came in, I'm thrust into how things have been done, for the past however many years, and I'm appreciative of that and the work that they've done and the success that they've had, but it will look different. And so, understanding that's been part of my learning lesson, chap, right? As I've looked at the things that I really like about what we do and the things that I don't necessarily like that we do. And there has to be, to lead an organization, there has to be alignment from all of us, from Mr. Irsay and Ballard and myself and the entire organization of how this thing looks. And as a leader, if you don't have that, I don't think you'd be effective. And so there are things that I would definitely do differently, and I think that's expected no matter if it's me or somebody else, right? There's going to be change, and so when I look at that, I assign the last 8 weeks as incredible value that I can learn what I want to do and what I don't want to do and how to make those changes. And I think it gives me a very unique perspective that hopefully I can use to better the team, better the organization.
Last follow-up. Have you set up an interview with Jim Irsay?
Have I what?
Set up an interview with him?
No, I have not set up a time and all that kind of stuff. No, I have not set that yet.
If you land the job, do you expect to be working with Chris Ballard in the same capacity?
I'm imagining. I mean, that's been Irsay, and when I talk to Chris has been great since I've been here. He and I have worked together, I guess as much as you can as a head coach GM in this flux. But man, he's been great to me, worked hard to help me, and so that would be my assumption. I mean, again, that's way above my pay grade. I don't have any say in that. Haven't had any discussions or thoughts about it. That's just been that would be my assumption. Yeah.
On that note, what you talked about with Chap, let's say you have the interview, a lot of coaches are going to sit in there and be like, these are my qualifications. Yours a little bit different how you landed here.
Right.
1 and 7. What are you going to say as to why you should keep this permanent?
Yeah, I have. That's a great question and one I'm going to hold tight to the vest. Hopefully that sets me apart is what I will bring to that. And listen, I have a very clear vision of how I can turn this football team around. And I have a plan of attack that I understand this is what I believe has to happen for us to turn a corner. And so I'm not one that wavers. I'm not one that gets disjointed, very, very quickly. I'm pretty steadfast, and I think I've shown that in the way that we're gonna operate. There are gonna be principles of this team. I can just generally, from a practice perspective, what does this thing look like? From a schedule perspective, what does it look like? From, an organization, what does the alignment look like? From training, equipment, right, practice, all those different things. All of that stuff, I have a very clear vision on what that looks like, and I'll save the details of how I would separate that. And I would think from any head coach, again, I mean, I don't know how many new head coaches or first-time attempts at a head coach will have any other, any other qualification other than this is my game plan of how we're going to go affect it, and then we have to go execute it. When I look at how I got brought in, I didn't get brought in under under my set of way of doing things, right? As you're operating within the boundaries that have already been placed, and so I would assume that's how every coach is gonna have that conversation.
It sounds like you want to change a lot.
We'll see. We'll see.
Jeff, you're talking to the players in the locker room, a lot of praise and support for you.
That's great to hear.
Despite the losses to this year, how much joy did you have, coaching this team? I said this today. Relationships matter, and I think it gets lost in this world, but relationships in this game are really what it's all about. And I think the Damar Hamlin situation and how you saw the football community as a whole come together in small microcosms, that's what we're like, in these rooms. When somebody has something going on in their family, or somebody has something going on in their marriage, or whatever it is in their life, people surround them in love and in family and in friendship. And so it matters. And I told them how appreciative I was of building relationships with these guys. And it's kind of one of those things when you're in tough times, those relationships seem to build much faster. And so I've gotten to know a lot of these guys much better than I thought I would. And I've loved it. I really have. I've loved getting to know them. I respect them. I respect the way they go about their business and their daily lives and the way they carry themselves in the community. And so I made sure that I let them all know that.
Jeff, when you got here, you did talk about this as an 8-game audition for a permanent job. So what kind of things do you feel like you guys are able to show in those 8 games that's something that this organization should maybe buy into?
Yeah, well, as far as an 8-game audition, again, like when you say 8-game audition, I'm an 8-game audition with a half an offensive staff, boundaries that you don't come in. So yeah, I mean, it's an 8-game audition with what you're kind of with the hands you're dealt, right? And so how do you deal with that? Hopefully I've shown in my leadership, and to AC's point about the way that I've tried to lead these guys, I've gotten, I wish we were better than 1-7, right? I'm sure everybody in that locker room and everybody standing here, it makes all of our jobs a lot easier if you win, right? Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. I'm not dissuaded by that. Could I be successful at doing this because of those first 8 games? A lot, like I just told you, it will be a different direction and a different vision that I'm carrying through, right? One that's my own, that I can go implement and move forward with. That being said, from the audition perspective, I've learned, and I'm hoping that those lessons are valuable, that I can use to say, hey, I've seen the inner workings of what I like and don't like, and I can make adjustments in that. Whether it's the nucleus of players that you like, right? How coaches do this or how they do that, and what do you appreciate and what do you think helps get you to the wins versus the other way. And so, but as far as the audition, there's a lot of great coaches out there who've coached a long time, and the last 8 games hadn't gone the way they wanted it to go, right? I think we saw some last night, right? We saw some, it happens in this game. It's not all going to be good. And I will say this, and I'm appreciative of this, if you knew how many coaches have texted me, former head coaches, active head coaches, about, hey man, I've taken it in the teeth, right? I was 3 and whatever. I was 2 and whatever. I was 1 and whatever. I was 0 for all those conversations. They help, when you're looking at this type of situation. Again, it's not ideal. I don't love losing. So, I hope anybody who sits up here in front of you can't stand to lose. But again, from the perspective of moving forward, one's not going to have much to do with the other.
Jeff, you've been here for however many weeks, and so you got a good feel for where this team is.
Yeah.
regardless of who coaches this team next year, how far away from getting back to where they want to be do you think this team is?
Yeah, not nearly as far as y'all think. I've seen some articles here recently, so I can assure you, a lot of shots fired, and I don't think we're nearly as far off as you guys believe we are. I think the line in football between winning and losing is very narrow, and there's things that we have not done that I believe, habits that are created in March and April and OTAs and preseason and early in the season, they pay dividends in November and December, right? Unfortunately, I didn't have that opportunity for those things, but those moments matter. And so when you talk about how do you change, and I think it was Zach or somebody asked me last night, hey, what can you pinpoint, right? Is there's been different situations when you've had the opportunity to close games and different phases haven't, and for whatever reason, it's the habits that are built then. What does a closeout look like? When you're on the field and you're practicing and you're driving home the details of what that looks like, how do you get that accomplished? And I think that can be taught, coached, and we can be better at it again. But I think in totality is really where the most is made.
Jeff, if you don't get the head coaching gig, would you be open to a position coach or front office role?
Man, I haven't thought anything about that, Kev. I mean, not even a little bit. I'm hoping to get it, and hoping to prepare, and it's all that first.
So you love this place. I think it's obvious that you love this place.
Yeah.
You care about this place. You want what's best for this team. And if you interview, you're going to be interviewing against guys with OC, backgrounds, more credentials, I would imagine. You still think you would be the best candidate against coaches?
Yeah, I will tell you this whole thing about the OC-DC. I would. If I had been a coordinator for 5 years in the NFL or a position coach for 15 years in the NFL, I would not be either one and be a head coach. So I would be a head coach. I will hire an offensive coordinator. I will hire a defensive coordinator. I will hire a special teams coordinator, right? I am not one who wants to do, one of those jobs. And so I have a very clear, distinct way of what that would look like. I have a very distinct person or people in mind that I think would be excellent at the job and thrive in the job. And again, my job at that point becomes, how can I empower them to be their best, and what do I need to do to frame that? And so when I look at all of those things, DC, OC, I mean, it makes no difference to me because I don't know who's coming in and who's going to try it and who's going to call it. I know the ones that I have in mind, and I think they would be up to the task.
We're going to go two more. Jeff, did it feel like this team could fully be your team in interim role, or just something where you just had to kind of, I guess, make the most of it in a sense?
I don't think you can make listen, I don't think you can make a team in 8 weeks. So no, I mean, as far as I felt like from a leadership perspective, I had to earn their trust. I think I said that very early. I think I did that. I think I did a good job of earning their trust. I thought from a perspective of where the areas that we felt like we could get better in, hey, let's attack this. I know to a man, I've met with a lot of players this morning, the competition at practice, the way those guys have played. And again, that's the area, and I know it sounds so cliche and everybody wants to write and make fun of it, but the way you practice ultimately is going to be the way that you play. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten from one side to the other, but that's how it works in the NFL, right? I've seen it work that way, and I know everybody else that sees it, that's the way it works. So when guys come in and say, man, the competition that we bred, the energy we bred, the relationships that we put together and fostered in this short time, that, Coach, I appreciated. I benefited from it. That's the part where I felt like I could make the most, the most headway, and that's where I felt like I did.
Did you see this situation for an interim coach as different than other situations? Because like in Carolina, Steve Wilkes took over, they went 6-6.
Yeah, no, great question, right? And Steve I commend the heck out of what he did, right? I also know McAdoo, who's their offensive coordinator, and Campen, who's their offensive line coach, worked together in Green Bay for a number of years, right? So I would tend to believe a guy coming in after 9 weeks, walking into a room with a short offensive staff, and a guy who's walking in and been together for however long they've been together before and after should have a different level of success, right? So I do think as you look at things, you can go, man, this is how this went. And again, I respect the heck out of Steve and what he's done. And I love those two guys in particular. I worked with them in Green Bay. But not every situation is exactly the same when you get behind closed doors, right? And so how do you differentiate? That's a great question and a great answer, right? Is they're not the same. And what you do in that short span of time as you were already the defensive coordinator and in that building for that period of time would tend to help you, I would imagine. Again, I've never been in a building and become an interim versus a guy coming outside, but I would say that.